Hey guys, welcome to the sixth set between Nony and Dino, a very high level. Basically, two of the top protoss players in the nation. We have Situation, who is Nony, in fact, starting at the 6 o'clock location as the green protoss, 12 o'clock position. We have, Royal Flush? G4I Royal Flush, who's actually Dino for UCI, and honestly, this really feels like the all-star of all-star matches right here in the Collegiate Star League. Destination, one of those matches which is very, very, very close for, and actually, Dino trying to throw him off his game a little bit. He's like, "You ready for Idrid tomorrow, Dino?" Or Nony? There we go. Destination, really key on specifically getting Psystorm out and having a buttload of Dragoons, and it really feels like it's kind of, oh my gosh, the trash talk, $500 against you. Throw it for me. Dino's still trying to rile Nony up. The guys have played against each other quite a bit, and between these two guys, I think Nony's a more technical player, but Dino has that kind of, what's the word for it, je ne sais quoi. He's the guy who can really kind of mix things up, throw you off your game. He can cheese, he can do a lot of that stuff. And I think the psychological advantage, much like G5 versus Cloud, is going to work a little bit more towards Dino's favor as a result, being that Nony's going to want to get out that observatory a little bit sooner perhaps, thinking that Dino might go for a little bit of cheese, whereas Nony might be a little bit later on that robotics facility, or I'm sorry, on that observatory, and as a result end up in trouble. Both players, I think, will probably open up 2-gate Dragoon, go for early expansion, 2-gate Dragoon Reaver to follow, or Observatory immediately after that. And really then it's the rush to High Templar. You really can't utilize Zealots in particular until right after the mid-game. It's just one of those maps like that. It looks like Dino already with the anti-Manor Pylon. Been commentating for a while here, guys. Out on this front, just kind of playing a little bit more closer in. And there you've got the scout coming out from both ends. Both players going to basically kind of a mirror build, but Dino with a little bit closer to his chest, as you can see, a little bit closer in with that Zealot, with the Dragoon positioning. Both players either way. Neither one cheesing, neither one playing all that too crazy. It's really difficult to cheese on this map unless you're kind of doing that back door opening right there, particularly PvP, because not quite sure what was up with that from Dino. Getting a little attack command, running up, attacking that assimilator a little bit, making sure that Nony can't use his spacebar apparently, and just really sealing his door in. He actually needs to be careful doing this, because this is one of those situations where if he plays a little bit too close in and Nony decides to get aggressive early and runs in his front door that he can't hold because his units are so far away, or his gateways are so far away from the ramp, Nony might be able to run in and do a pretty good amount of damage if he threw in a Zealot or two, and he does have one Zealot running around on the front. I think Dino is playing this a little bit positionally because he wanted to skimp on the Zealot and get a Dragoon out instead, so it looks like he is in fact doing so right now. So feeling like he needs to kind of make a little bit more of a blockade on his front door, play a little bit more kind of back as a result. Looks like Dino did manage to get that Manor Pylon off in the meantime. Let's see if he cancels it. Does manage to cancel it, so only loses 33 resources and basically makes it up immediately. Nony, for whatever reason, trying to throw Dino off a little bit. He does have those 2 Zealots, but he hit his Cybernetics core along that back corner, almost giving him the impression that if that Probe Scout doesn't move back, that he's going to go 1-gate into an expansion and kind of skimp on it with the Dragoons, which he can't believe that's happening. There he's finding that Cybernetics core, but still a clever attempt there on Nony's part. This will also serve for a little bit of spotting here later in the game with that positioning. In the meantime, that Dragoon looks like it was able to kick that probe off. Doesn't look like that probe did die at this stage. I'm not sure where it went. Maybe there was a probe who killed it on that front door. Never mind, there it is. Lost track of it. It's hard to tell with that green and blue there. Maybe I should do this. Make it red. There we go. Red, yellow, but you'll be able to still tell that blue, green otherwise. So red being Nony, of course, and red/green being Nony in the 12 o'clock position. Yellow/blue being Dino. Anyway, Probe Scout coming back to home base. 2 Zealots still in the front door. Looks like that robotics facility. So 1-gate robotics facility, probably 2-gate into a robotics facility. This is the most standard build you'll see on Destination. Nony actually mixing it up a little bit, because usually you'll see that 2nd gate before the Robo, and this is actually Robo before 2nd gate. It looks like Dino on the opposite end thinking about going for an expansion first to try to get that economic edge. You can play this a little bit more defensively. I feel like this is a little bit more of the aggressive style. It can also provide a little bit of defense for you. So essentially what Nony's going to need to do, especially, is basically go Reaver first, get a couple probe kills off the bat, and know knowing his Reaver control, he's extremely capable of doing that. So, and I think that's why he wanted that robotics facility a little bit sooner. And he might have delayed it a little bit just because of that scout running around in his base as well, that second gateway. I mean, again, trying to convince Dino that he was in fact going for a different build than he was, and trying to play up a little bit that he wasn't in fact going for a Reaver protoss. Instead, he was going for a natural expansion a little bit sooner. And at this stage, Dino's going to have to play in the dark for quite a bit of time. He's going to, first of all, he went for that natural expansion. Additionally, it's hard to get probes across the base at this stage of the match. He's going to send a probe scout out anyway. And unfortunately, it looks like Nony, in fact, is going to go observatory first. And again, this could put him in a really bad situation, because this is, now he's got to get a lot of probe kills with that Reaver. Specifically, that Reaver's going to come out a lot later if he does in fact go it. And it looks like he did in fact. Okay, sorry, he went 2 gate into expansion. Because Dino decided to go 1 gate into expansion, he's going to end up pretty sizably ahead economically. It looks like Dino's going to follow up with his 2 gate a little bit later. And that's the thing, is following up, just because it's such a defensible map, even with 1 gate with these ramps, you can really play against that pretty well. And I think, again, this is kind of the psychological stance early, is because Nony was knowing that Dino's a little bit more of a creative, a little bit more of a cheesy player. He's thinking, I need to get that observatory out a little bit sooner, I need to play a little bit more defensively, and Dino was able to exploit that by taking a 1 gate expansion. Not to say that that's the match, but that's going to give him a pretty sizable economic lead early. And now it looks like, wow, Dino putting down everything at once, getting the observatory, the Citadel of the Dune, robotics facility. So I think he's going to want to follow this out with High Templar almost immediately, and I almost think he's going to skip that 3rd base and he's going to go straight for a 2-base victory over Nony, which is pretty intelligent, because really what it comes down to is taking that 3rd base. With Nony seeing all this, I'm kind of curious. It looks like Nony is going to be able to see all this, so a little bit of a boon. I'm kind of curious how he's going to react to it. But really, if you can get map control, if you can kind of cave in and make sure that your opponent can't get out of that natural expansion, you can go take your 3rd base later without really worrying about it, and your opponent has to just panic a little bit, because he gets locked out and starved out ultimately. So even if you're not taking your 3rd base and you're just holding there, you can really starve your opponent out fairly effectively, just by forcing them to come to you. And it looks like Dino able to pull that probe out a little bit, but not able to get much else done. It looks like Speed Zealot's not being upgraded, so I've got to assume you're going to see in a lot of gateways being planted. Actually, never mind. I thought there was a gateway here at that natural expansion. Reaver to provide a little bit of defense. 4 gateways. Expect it to go up to 6 actually before moving out. And Nony starting to move out of this forward position. I don't think he's going to press in with an attack once again, because I think that would again be somewhat suicidal. But he is going to move up and try to get position as much as he can to try to basically force Dino to isolate the 2 bases versus the other way around. It looks like he's going to be able to do so pretty effectively, though. But again, Psystorm's going to be out a little bit sooner for Dino. Going over these ramps, especially with that Reaver pressing a little bit forward. I think Nony's going to have a hard time keeping Dino back to kind of follow this up with an inferior